welcome into the Sporting Jacks Report. Along with Mauricio Ruiz, I'm Cole Pepper. Coming up, it's been a busy last couple of weeks for the U.S. national teams. There's more to come this summer. We'll also get to know a couple of the stars of the undefeated Florida Elite USLW League team. But let's start with the U.S. men's national team and a big wake-up call Saturday against Colombia. Mauricio, talk about a wake-up call. That was the word used by Greg Berhalter, the head coach, after a 5-1 loss to Colombia. Granted, Colombia's a very good side, but that is not the kind of performance Greg Berhalter or anybody else wanted to see leading up to the Copa America later this month.
Absolutely not, and you really can't hide that performance. Sometimes when you lose by 2-1, 3-1, and when the margin's really small, you try to make some comments. Oh, it's a warm-up game, it's a preseason game, we rotated the roster quite a bit. But when you get beat 5-1 like that, Cole, you really can't hide that score. And really, the spirit of the team was low. The competitive spirit of the team almost felt like it was a walkthrough for them, but certainly not for Colombia.
22-match unbeaten streak for Colombia, as you see there. They've been playing extremely well, but to have that kind of a performance, tonight they'll take on Brazil, the U.S. will. You'll be at that match in Orlando. There are big expectations for what we're going to see in that match. U.S. has got to bounce back.
They do have to bounce back, and you really can't take that game as the litmus test still. I think there's a spirit to competition when Copa America does get started that I think we'll see a team kind of get lifted up. But you want to see them have a different performance. And obviously, going from Colombia to Brazil, it's not getting any easier for them in a sense. And Brazil will play some of the top players. But I still believe the U.S. can have a great performance during this Copa America. They can get to a semifinal game. You're still playing at home. You're going to go through some confidence building in Bolivia, in Panama. Uruguay is going to be a tough one. But I still think they still have a really good chance of advancing far.
You say playing at home. They'll also be doing that, of course, in the World Cup. Coming up in 2026. So after the warm-ups against Colombia and Brazil, the U.S. will begin the group stage in the Copa America. You mentioned the matchups here coming against Bolivia and Panama, and then Uruguay, certainly probably going to be the toughest there. Did your opinion change about what the United States can accomplish in the Copa America as a result of the loss to Colombia?
I think the opinion falters a little bit, but I'm still confident that they can accomplish a lot. I did say they were playing at home, but if the Colombian game showed you anything, and tonight as going to Orlando where Brazil, residents are strong, playing at home in the U.S. or in a very Latin-based soccer, enthusiast, sometimes you don't get the same thing. And he definitely in the game in Washington D.C. felt like Colombia had the advantage, especially as they go up. But I do feel like we have the players. We have the setup in order to do well. I would expect for the U.S. to get to a semifinal. All
right, we'll see how it all plays out. We'll keep a close eye on the Copa America as it approaches. And we invite you to join us for our Summer of Soccer watch parties. The Copa America watch parties will be held at Grace Note Brewing. That's under the Roosevelt Bridge between Ortega and Avondale. Those are the matches involving the U.S. men's national team in the group stage. We'll have prizes to give away and a chance for you to ask questions about Sporting Jacks. And if you are a season ticket depositor, beers are buy one, get one. It's free to attend, but please RSVP by going to sportingjacks.com and registering. As for the U.S. women's national team, they won a pair of friendlies against South Korea, 4-0 and 3-0 to start Emma Hayes' tenure as the head coach. But the big story coming out of that second game was the debut of 16-year-old Lily Yohannes. Scored a goal in her debut. What a moment there. And what did you take from that match and Lily Yohannes coming on for her first cap?
Well, for the first two matches, I think kind of getting the identity of the team or what it's going to look like. Obviously, it's not formed just yet, but Emma Hayes is a personality on her own, and they said the team ultimately takes like a mold of the personality of the coach. She's energetic. She wants to go forward. She wants to play attacking football and defend. I think we got to see a little bit of that in this game. But as far as the young star, American-born, but she lives in the Netherlands right now. She's playing for the Ajax Academy. I think it's great to see young women soccer players in Europe having the dual citizenship to be able to play for the U.S. and have to make that decision. We don't see that a lot on the women's side. We see that a lot on the men's side. So that just speaks to how global the women's game is becoming and how popular it's becoming. Hopefully she made the right choice, hopefully for us, for the U.S., but she just kind of fits into the next level of next stars that the U.S. currently has.
Who knows, we might see her playing for the United States in the Olympics as well, as the women's senior team will participate there in Paris. There is also big-time soccer coming to Jacksonville, and tickets are available now for the July 27th Stateside Cup. Wolves versus West Ham at Everbank Stadium. You see the information right there. It is time now for the Island Wing Company USL Championship game of the week, and this week it's Las Vegas Lights against Miami FC. in a matchup of a couple of teams trying to find their footing and take that next step here this week, Mauricio.
Yeah, two teams struggled to get the season started, and as you can see here, you see Miami in orange. They're really going to get things going, from an early stage. But two teams that are struggling early in the season.
No doubt about it. Miami got off to the fast start, 25th minute, and watch this ball control by Miami. In particular, Frank Lopez in tight quarters, his second goal of the season. Miami's up 1-0 on the road. This is a nice little bit of ball control.
Yeah, lovely piece of skill work from Lopez to control the knockdown. You can see the knockdown. He adjusts his body. His first touch wasn't great, but gets a little juggle going on there and really puts it past the keeper. Lovely little layoff with the chest from Michael Lawrence, and what a great finish.
All right, now to the first half stoppage time. Las Vegas trying to pull level. The Lights very patient here. They work it around to the end line. And Coleman Gannon makes the run here and sends it into Corey Bennett. Beautiful back heel to make it 1-1.
Well, what a great display of 1v1 ability from Gannon. You can see here 3 versus 2 defensively, but he gets it to the byline, and what a beautiful first post run. And just get a little flick there. The ball's a little behind him, but what a nice piece of trickery.
All right, now second half, 58th minute, Las Vegas with a giveaway, and Miami has a chance to retake the lead. Andrew Booth finds it and sees it deflected. It is saved by Nicholas Ameter, who gets a hand on it to make it 1-1. Both teams with chances in this 160th minute. Watch Valentin Noel with a strike, a bending ball that needed to bend just another couple of inches. Nearly a goal here.
Well, you can run a semi-truck through that Miami FC's defense there. Pretty much anyone could run through and just got a little deflection off the post.
All right, a moment later, big moment in the game. Dalton Knudsen called for it, doesn't like it. It's a penalty, though, and Corey Bennett steps up to the spot and puts it away. He delivers, and it was all Las Vegas after that. 3-1 the final. Vegas has now won more games this season than they did all of last year. That is a testament to the work being done by new owner Jose Bautista and his staff.
Yeah, that's probably the biggest roster turnover that we've seen in the entire USL Championship this year. So to kind of get to this stage in the season and already have better results than last year, that's a form of success. But I know they have the ambition to be one of the best teams in the league. They're on their way, but it's going to take some time. All
right, let's check out some of the scores from around the USL Championship. You see the 3-1 here by Las Vegas and Miami. Fairly low-scoring week overall. Detroit City getting a 2-0 victory playing away at Rhode Island is a pretty notable result for Detroit City.
Yeah, they're back on their winning ways. We're going to see on the table they still have a lot of games in hand. Indy gets her 5th win in the row at the bottom against a really good Birmingham, and Roots a very much needed result against a very strong Rowdies team.
All right, let's check out the standings, and they are brought to you by Sport. You go in the West. New Mexico United on top with Sacramento right behind. This now, at this moment, looks like a 2-horse race, especially when you consider the games in hand for New Mexico United.
Oh, absolutely. New Mexico just continued. The table didn't really move after this weekend. Phoenix getting the result, kind of just overtakes Orange County right there in the middle. San Antonio gets a good result. There's a lot of parity there in the middle. You can see the top to the bottom starting to open up, but a lot of good parity in the middle.
All right, now let's go to the Eastern Conference standings. Much bigger numbers when you look at the points totals from the teams in the East. Louisville City back on top with a game in hand on Charleston Battery. Indy 11 continues to work their way up the table. And again, we keep looking at Detroit City because of the games played. They have played 3 games fewer than Charleston and Indy, and they're hanging around.
And I think they know that. And if they can only get a 2-3 games as they kind of make up the schedule, they're going to be there in the top 3. But I keep looking now. We always look at the top, but if you keep looking at a 7, 8, 9, 10 kind of battle there, there's a lot of parity there, a lot of separation at the top. But you see at the bottom, outside of really Miami FC, which is kind of falling behind, everyone else from 11 to 7 are contending for that playoff spot.
All right, it's going to be quite a run here. We're just about a third of the way through the schedule, a little bit more. We'll see how it all plays out at the rest of the season. When we come back, we'll get Becky Burleigh's thoughts on the women's national team and what we should expect from the U.S. coming up in the Olympics. And remember, you can become a member of Sporting Jacks. It's absolutely free. Just go to sportingjacks.com to sign up. You'll get discounts on club merchandise, invitations to VIP events, entries into contests for prizes and experiences, and you'll receive the Sporting Jacks monthly email newsletter. You can put your deposit down for season tickets as well for the men's and women's teams to receive exclusive Sporting Jacks founding member pins. Just go to sportingjacks.com to become a member. More to come right after this. USL Championship games are streamed on ESPN Plus or CBS's Golazo Network, and the next national broadcast comes on CBS Sports Network Wednesday, June the 19th, as Louisville City hosts the Pittsburgh Riverhounds, a 7:30 kickoff on CBS Sports Network. Then the following Saturday, June the 22nd, it's the first ESPN2 broadcast of the season, featuring USL Championship teams with Monterey Bay hosting Oakland Roots, a 6 p.m. kick on that Saturday on ESPN2. All right, welcome back, and we welcome in Becky Burleigh to join us as she does each and every week. Becky, last week we talked about Emma Hayes' first match as the head coach of the U.S. women's national team. Now we've seen two matches, both clean sheets, both pretty impressive performances. What are your takeaways now on Emma's first two matches in charge?
Well, obviously you guys have already addressed the big one. Lily Yohannes was fun to watch. I mean, just a smooth operator. But I think three of the things that are going to be very, very, very interesting to watch as we go into the Olympics are, one, who's going to be the goalkeeper? Are we going with Nair, or is this battle between Jane Campbell and Casey Murphy just heating up? I mean, three great options, so that's a great problem to have. Second great problem to have, I think, is the forward situation. Man, you know, Swanson, Smith, and Rodman up top are just, they are freaking scary to the opponents. And then when you put Macario in there, like, what? How do you even defend that? But I think that leaves out a big question. What's Alex Morgan's role in all of this going to be? So I think that's going to be something interesting to watch as this roster drops. And then lastly, I think for me, one of the things I'm very interested in thinking is, you know, Naomi Gurma has clearly established herself as a mainstay in the back at center back. Who's going to be her partner? And there's some good options there. You know, I loved seeing Sam Staub step into that role, but I feel like Davidson is trying to nail that spot down. And man, competition everywhere.
Well, that's usually a good problem for a coach, but it can also drive them crazy a little bit. Making those roster decisions. Do you see Lily as part of that Olympic roster as well? It's a name that we know. It's a name that's kind of like in and out on the verge. How do you see her position within this roster?
You know, the hardest part about young players is the cycle, right? It only comes around every 2 years, every 4 years. And so you don't want to miss out on an opportunity for someone to get that kind of experience. But at the same time, you've got these veteran players or mid-form players that are, you know, halfway through their career that have really proven their worth. So how do you manage that? And I think that's the toughest role of a national team coach. You're not just coaching for the current, you're also coaching for the future.
Well, the women's national team is not going to play again until July. So between now and then, what's on Emma Hayes' checklist? What does she have to get accomplished before getting back on the field?
You know, I'm sure they'll have some closed session scrimmages. I think the question is really going to be, one, picking the roster, but more than that, like, what's the best chemistry? What fits together the best? Because it's not just having 11 pieces. It's finding the 11 pieces that fit together the best. And I think you can only do that through seeing them, watching them, seeing how those things develop. I mean, it is a very, very tough job. And like Mauricio said, it's a great job because it's an embarrassment of riches. But at the same time, you know, these are some critical decisions that are going to come into play.
So given all that, how do you rate success for Coach Hayes and for the women's national team in the Olympics?
Ooh, coming with the heavy hitters there. You know, I think a lot of people are going to be concerned I wouldn't say less about results, because Americans, we are never concerned less about results, but more about the way that we play. And I think that's going to be a big deal. Like, are we really truly falling behind? Is that a myth? Can we play with the best teams in the world in terms of stylistically, not just outcomes? I think those are some questions that still need to be answered.
All right, let's spend just a moment on USL Super League, which will kick off in August. We've seen a flurry of moves and some different paces and techniques by some of the teams as they get ready for the inaugural season. What's jumping out at you about the USL Super League right now?
You know, I think what's jumping out at me is there are some teams that are, you know, getting quite well built out in terms of their roster. And there are some teams where either it's internal and we just don't know about it yet, or there's still some work to be done there in terms of building out the roster. And that's usually what people get excited about once you get past the, you know, the crest and the announcing your team. It's like, who are the players going to be? And I think for that, it's going to be a summer of leading right up until the very first start of the games. It's going to be a summer of all sorts of surprises as we go.
Going to be fun to follow as the inaugural season approaches. Becky, thanks so much. We'll talk to you again next week.
Sounds great.
It's not too early to become a season ticket member of Sporting Jacks. Just go to sportingjacks.com and put your deposits down. $25 reserves your space for the men's or women's teams. And if you want to reserve your spot for both, it's just $40. Go to sportingjacks.com to save your seat for pro soccer in Jacksonville. Coming up, our youth soccer spotlight. The #1 team in the entire USLW plays in Jacksonville. We hear from two of the stars of Florida Elite. That's coming up right after the break. Even before the official kit is unveiled, you can get your own official Sporting Jacks merchandise, from t-shirts and hats to sweatshirts and, of course, the scarf. You can find Sporting Jacks official merchandise at sportingjacks.com, at our official team store on Phillips Highway, and at We Got Soccer. It is time now for our youth soccer spotlight, presented by the Bearded Pig Barbecue, and we are proud to announce that in our city, the #1 rated team in the USLW League is playing. That is Florida Elite. This week I had a chance to go down and watch some of the training for Florida Elite and meet a couple of the players who have bright futures ahead of them. A combination of talented players and a high standard of expectation have made Florida Elite one of the top clubs in the USLW League.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this summer experience at Florida Elite because it's a very high intensity. I feel like it pushes me not only in summer, but it makes me ready for fall when I go back.
Georgia Brown grew up in England and has played internationally for Scotland. As team captain, she sets the tone on the pitch.
The standard of coaching, the standard of players is pushing me every day to be better, and that's what I'm looking for in my summer.
Grace Ivey didn't come as far. A star at Bartram Trail, Ivey grew up in Jacksonville and plays her college soccer at Texas A&M. But she always returns to Florida Elite.
I mean, I've grown up here my whole life, so I always find myself coming back to Florida Elite because I really just find it's an environment that I want to be in, and I think that's going to get me the most ready for fall season, for college. And there's just really nothing else like it. I mean, the intensity of trainings and the coaching, it's just, I always find myself coming back here because I think it's just going to get me the most ready for college. The future for both Brown and Ivey appears bright, and with a professional women's team launching in Jacksonville, both see the growth of the women's game as a major positive.
Yeah, for sure, because as a female athlete, my ambitions are to go professionally, so the bigger women's sport is growing, the bigger popularity it has, that's going to make it more exciting for us as players. And to see the younger kids being an inspiration for the younger kids coming through, that's really important for me as well.
It's huge. There's never been a professional club in this area, and even just finding like high-level soccer in this area for women especially, it's difficult. So I think that having a pro team here is really just going to change the game completely for women. And you already see the young kids in this club especially. They come out and they watch our games, they're asking for autographs, and they come to all the meet and greets. And I think it's just going to be so inspiring for kids, because I know especially for me, I've always wanted to play professionally, and there's no pro team around here. So I think if I had that when I was younger, I would have loved it.
Really an impressive collection of players, both from in town and out of town. Grace played at Bartram Trail, was a state champion there on those great teams. And then you have Georgia Brown coming from England. She played internationally for Scotland, and now here she is. This is a really impressive group.
It really is, and I think they said it as best as we could, right? Like how excited it is to bring a women's professional team and kind of the work that's being done now in the under-23 kind of age group in the USLW League. It's a great league, but for a lot of these young ladies, this is it. Right, they play college, they play here over the summer, but now they look at the excitement that they're talking about, and to have the perspective to bring it back to the younger kids that are seeing them now eventually have the opportunity to play pro. You see there, Grace is talking about when she was younger, if she had that opportunity, she would have loved it. So this is kind of what's happening here locally, and this team is representing the city really, really well right now.
And don't be surprised if some of the young ladies playing on that team wind up playing for Sporting Jacks in the not-too-distant future.
Well, it's a really high level, as you mentioned. Not only they're winning, but they're winning by large margins. It's been pretty impressive, to be honest. You kind of go out there and they're actually putting, a large score on top of teams that look like Main City, kind of putting score. They don't win by anything less than 4, but it's an impressive group, and there's some future pros on that team for sure.
No doubt about it. All right, we invite you to join us for our new radio show, the Sporting Jacks Soccer Hour. Could be heard Mondays at 6 p.m. on 1010XL. Maurice, Becky, and I cover The world of soccer, including the U.S. men's national team, USL Championship, and more, every Monday night, 10 o'clock on 1010 a.m. There's more of the Sporting Jacks report straight ahead, right after this. You can watch the Sporting Jacks report every Wednesday at noon on ABC 25, with re-airings on Saturdays on ABC 25 and on demand at First Coast News Plus. We want to give you a look at an event that we talked about last week. Rachel Violet, the daughter of legendary Manchester United star Dennis Violet, was on hand for a screening of her documentary, A United Man, about her father. It was an intimate gathering of about 60 people from the soccer community in Jacksonville. We were there to see it. Mauricio, I thought it was a very impressive gathering of soccer folks from past and present.
It really was, and I knew of Dennis Violet and the presence he had here in this community, but really being in that room and hearing the stories, I mean, he really kind of birthed competitive professional soccer in his community, and his legacy stands today, as you can see it in the room.
It was great. Great to see a lot of faces from past years and some that we expect to see a lot more of in the future. Hey, you can follow us on social media. We are on all of these platforms, so connect with Sporting Jacks and follow us through the summer. For Mauricio Ruiz and Becky Burleigh, I'm Cole Pepper. Thanks so much for watching the Sporting Jacks Report. We'll see you again next week.